Hi, I'm Adam Fairs from Spedan Limited. We are consultants for all of the major ISO 9001 management systems, and we thought it would be useful just in this period while we're all on lockdown to share some of our experiences around remote auditing. A number of our clients have last week been through some remote audits, so we thought it would be useful for people just about to go through that process. So very quickly, what we're going to run through is the case for remote auditing. We're going to talk about some of the things that you can do to prepare for it, the information that you can share with your certification body, and some sort of little tips for making the activity quite smooth and effective. We hope it's helpful. So the case for remote auditing at the moment, obviously the current Covid-19 crisis means that we can't risk face-to-face audits for fear of spreading infection. And certification bodies have said that for the foreseeable future, they're going to be completing remote audits where that is effective and useful to do so. So the certification bodies are contacting you. They will be contacting you to identify where remote audits can take place. And the point of that is it will help them understand the extent to which the current audit programs can be maintained. Now, it might be that the audit is split so that systems which can be evidenced using remote techniques, we do that activity. And it could be that then some potential site visits are held later on after this pandemic has sort of cleared and we're all back to work. Now, look, some companies may be closing down part of their organizations as well. So you really need to share some of the specific details with your certification body. And if appropriate, some of the certification bodies are delaying audits for a period of up to 6 months, and they're extending certificates. So it just gives us all some breathing space while this pandemic is going on. So on to the question of what is a remote audit. Now, a remote audit is where an auditor is going to connect with you using appropriate technology to speak to you, to speak to other people that are being audited, and to gather evidence that is needed. Now, it could be that the auditor is going to be remote, and it could be that you or your colleagues are sitting in your own homes and connecting via Skype or Zoom or some kind of web conferencing tool, and you'll be able to share your documents, your desktops with them. If you have a remote audit where some of the work is going on in the factory, what you'll be able to do is connect in exactly the same way using Skype or Zoom, and be able to share documents and your desktops in the same way as you would at home. But you might also be able to carry around a phone, for example, with a camera, and actually video some activities going on if that's appropriate and safe to do so. The point is that the auditor will be able to connect, he'll be able to see what's going on, and he'll be able to gather that evidence. There might be some opportunities as well if it's secure, if your information security policies allow you to do so, to share documents via a secure email or through a secure sort of Dropbox facility or SharePoint on Office 365 or whatever system that your IT policies allow. Now, in order to have a really effective audit, all of the certification bodies, as I said earlier, are going to be contacting people to share or to find out some pre-audit information. This is really important and it's really useful. So you're going to need to provide your certification body with really just some background. So are you prepared to accept a remote or a partially remote audit? You're going to need to understand whether you have the technological capability and network stability to support a remote assessment. They're going to want to know what platform you use, whether it's Skype or Zoom, and they're going to want to know what your security processes are as well for sharing information. They'll also want to know what level of operation is in place. So how much work are you actually doing? Have you got some teams that have been furloughed? Have you got some teams that are critical and maybe doing some more work, or maybe some work in slightly different areas? They will want to know what sites you're operating from. They'll want to know whether you've outsourced any processes, and I know this is a difficult question, but they're going to want to know whether any disaster recovery or business continuity plans that you've got in place have worked so far. Really, what you're trying to explain to them is how your processes have been affected, and whether you've got plans in place. And even since last week, when the Prime Minister said that we all have to work at home as much as possible, what has happened? What are the plans now? What's the best information that you can provide for them? So, moving on to the actual audit process itself, the critical thing for remote auditing, which we found really works, is time to prepare. Prepare with the auditor, prepare amongst yourselves. It's quite interesting. A remote audit we've actually found is really, really productive. It saves a lot of aggravation when auditors have not had to drive for hours to get to you. So generally, we found from the few remote audits that we've done that the auditors are actually in a slightly better frame of mind to do the work, which is really positive. With good preparation, you can have really good focus on the subject matter and the agenda that you're going to follow. And you can be really well prepared with your documentation and the information you need to present. So you can have it there and really batter through what information you're going to have. To make sure that remote audit is effective, work with your auditor in advance. Understand what they need to see as part of the audit plan. And critically, add some time into the audit plan just to test your technology. So can the auditor connect? What happens if you disconnect and then you want to reconnect at a later point? Just agree your sort of working protocols and what you're going to do. Factor in time for breaks, all those kind of little housekeeping things. Put that in, and then everybody knows, everybody is comfortable, and then you can all move ahead. We put 30 minutes aside at the beginning of the day to do that sort of testing and just agree the audit program in a bit more detail, and we found it really, really worked. One critical thing that we also did was we agreed what our procedure was going to be if the connection was lost. So if the auditor's home internet went down and we couldn't contact him, how we were going to do that, and those kind of minor details, which seem minor, but actually they're really, really helpful to get done. Now, during the audit, these were some things that we found useful. For a start, we found it useful to have two people, if you can have two people, because one person can then sort of discuss the content with the auditor and share their screen and talk them through the information that's on the screen, whilst the other person is acting as a bit of a gopher to line things up ready, to take notes, and to prepare sort of supplementary information if you haven't got that to hand. It's all very well in an agenda to say, right, I want to look at your risk assessment, but if there's some further detail that they need, if you've got someone else who can then line that up, that's really useful to have. It just keeps the pace of the audit going. Maybe in your agenda, what you can sort of go through, maybe you break it up piece by piece. So you say, right, in this part of the agenda, we're going to look at this information, and then maybe you have 10 minutes to go off and collect that if you haven't already. But again, it's just a question of agreeing it with your auditor. You can, if your information security policies allow, shared documentation with the auditors, but just be really clear if you're sharing a Dropbox or you're sharing an Office 365 with them, where that information is, which document it's in, and what page it's on, so they're not spending time messing around going through documents and not being clear on what's going on. That was something that we definitely found useful. Just some little tiny housekeeping points as well. Remember, if you're working at home, there's lots of noise and distractions that wouldn't be going off if you're in the office. At least I would hope not. So kids running in and out, cats and dogs jumping up onto your laps, all that sort of stuff. Just it can be quite funny, but maybe a bit irritating if you're trying to get through things effectively. Just warn other people as well if you're speaking to them over the web, or if they come into the room while you're doing things, because they can often be heard on microphones. those sounds that you don't think can be are often picked up. So just be careful, just warn them, and then things don't get misunderstood, they don't get misheard, and all that sort of stuff. When you're coming to the end of the audit, just make sure, because you're not sort of face to face, just make sure on what the outcomes of the audit are. So if there are any non-conformances or any further information that's needed, make sure you've got that. Make sure that you're clear if there's going to be a further audit, what is going to be the scope of that audit, and I know it's difficult at the moment, but when that might happen. And if there's any follow-up that's needed, then just clarify that with the auditor, and then you're in a good place to sort of carry on. You know what's going to happen, they know what's going to happen, and things are fine. Okay. So thanks for watching. My name's Adam Fairs from Spedan Limited. My website, spedan.co.uk, or our website rather, spedan.co.uk is available for you to read. We've got a whole series of blogs which you might find useful. The full text and some slides from this presentation are going up on the spedan.co.uk/blogs site. If you would like a copy of the slides, or you want a bit more information, or just a sort of a general inquiry, then please do email me on adam@spedan.co.uk. Thanks for watching. If you'd like any further content, please let us know, share, and tell your friends about this if it's useful to you. Thanks a lot. Cheers then. Bye now.